What's going on, you guys? My name's Ty Knots and welcome to Top 5 Unknowns, 5 more scary dating stories. But before we dive in, I just wanted to mention that this video was sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Forget what you know about mobile games because Raid Shadow Legends is one of the most ambitious RPGs of 2019, and it's going to change everything, as it offers one of the most immersive gaming experiences that you can find on a smartphone. The best part is that it's completely free. Raid has all the features of a great RPG, such as an amazing story, incredible 3D graphics, and hundreds of champions to collect and customize. There's an upcoming special launch tournament with amazing in-game prizes, so don't forget to join our clan before that. Just search Top 5 Unknowns with no spaces and hit us up. So go to the description now and download Raid exclusively through our links and get 50,000 silver immediately, and a free epic champion. We'll see you there. Number 5. This is 2015. I wasn't really actively looking, but I would pop on OkCupid every few weeks to see if anything interesting was in my inbox. Being female, I had a very active inbox. I noticed an email from an interesting, fairly local guy. The email was alright, asking about polyamory, which I don't mind talking about if the person asking is sincerely interested and respectful. We got to chatting, but I had zero romantic interest in him, but thought this could be a good friendship. After a few months of chatting, he found me on Facebook and asked if it was okay to send an ad request, and I agreed. We'd been chatting, getting along well, and he seemed like a nice person. A little weird, but that's okay because I'm a little weird myself. We continued to chat here and there for about 2 years, sending birthday greetings, just casual friendship. He asked several times to meet, to hang out, etc. I'd always considered it, but at that time I was running my own business and working upward of 70 hours a week, plus maintaining my own home, raising my younger child, and trying to balance 2 partners and an extremely needy, demanding client. So a meetup never occurred, but we kept in touch online. Late last year, a news story broke out about a man and his girlfriend who'd sexually assaulted and murdered their teenage daughter. I never connected the name until a friend contacted me. My online friend of 2 years had beaten, raped, strangled, and then dismembered his girlfriend's teen daughter, with the girlfriend's help. He made several statements since then, stating he'd always had a fantasy like this, and that this child was very sexual, but that it wasn't as fun taking her life as he apparently thought it would be. Number 4. This took place a couple years ago when I was still dating my ex. He and my dad had adopted a dog from the shelter. The dog was really aggressive towards strangers and other animals. It took him a couple months for him to warm up to me, but eventually we bonded and I would occasionally be cuddled up on the couch with him and take a nap. It got to the point where he would push someone else aside with all 88 pounds of him just so he could sit on the couch next to me instead. During the summer, my ex and me were house sitting for his dad who was on vacation with his girlfriend. My ex would usually be home to walk the dog, but this time he was at work, so I had to walk him. We'd ordered a special harness beforehand, hoping it would make him pull on his leash less. My ex and his dad didn't live in the safest of neighborhoods, and it was getting dark out while I went into the woods to go on our walk. I let the dog run around by himself, but kept his harness on. Since he was very aggressive towards other people and other dogs, I liked to keep it on so I could call him back to me if I saw someone get close. For this reason, I was kind of on edge and looking around me the entire time. We weren't walking for too long when I saw a group of guys coming up in front of me. They had their hoods on and kept their heads low while clearly whispering to each other and nodding their heads toward me. I looked behind me and another group of guys was approaching from that side. I quickly realized that it was dark out and I was a 16-year-old girl walking by myself in the woods. But the guys hadn't noticed that I had the dog with me. I quickly called him to my side and I heard his paws loudly coming toward me as he was growling. He pushed himself against my leg and started loudly growling at the guys. I told him to just keep walking or I would command him to attack. Luckily, the guys quickly walked in the other direction and I took the fastest route home again. It took me a while of cuddling on the couch to calm down again, but I'm so grateful that he listened that well. Number 3. Several years ago, I was in Livingston, Scotland. I was there for just a few days in a hotel with my sister and brother-in-law. While there, I went on a few dating sites and hookup sites just to see who was in the area. I didn't intend to actually meet up with anyone while there, and I put that on my profile. I put on there that I was only looking to chat and make friends. But then on the day that we were due to leave, I went onto one of the hookup apps, Grindr, and I received a message from someone. We got to chatting for a while and he was very charming and sweet and such. A hairdresser from Edinburgh. After a while of chatting and getting to know each other, I decided to hit the hay. The following morning, I received a message from him asking if I wanted to meet up for some fun in the bedroom. I told him I couldn't as we were leaving that day, and it had been stated on my profile that I wasn't meeting anyone while we were there. He started being abusive, saying that I was a time waster and saying sexual things that he would have done to me if we had met, but that I wouldn't have the chance, etc. Most of this was just insults and swears. I told him that if he didn't stop, I would report him and block him. He didn't stop, so I reported him and blocked him. Fast forward to the last couple of years, and the guy who I'd spoken to was in the news. Turns out he'd been using the app to lure victims in, who he would then infect with HIV using tampered condoms. I think the lucky stars that I decided not to meet anyone. His 10 known victims could have easily been 11. Number 2. Back in the 90s, I was 12 years old and in a healthy routine of calling my parents after walking 2 blocks home from school. It was my time by myself before one of my parents came home with my sister from daycare. I got a popsicle along the way. I sat down in the living room and turned the phone on and dialed my mother's work number. I didn't bother to wait and listen for a dial tone, I just dialed. I brought the phone up to my ear and listened for a ring. I heard nothing for a second and then a man's voice spoke clearly. "Hi, you sound really hot. I too like high-end shopping and jet skis. If you want some adventure in your life, reply to me." Now this guy was dull. He sounded like your everyday Midwest white guy with a stash and glasses. Visually, I imagined someone like Kip from Napoleon Dynamite. I was fascinated by his voice though. He also liked walks on the beach, cuddling, and soft rock music. What a catch, right? I listened to him spout a few more boring responses to what I now figured was a phone message dating service, and I assumed that I'd likely dialed the wrong number. I broke my silent cover by slurping loudly on my popsicle, and that's when I stopped being curious. Someone shouted, "Who's on the line?" I sat in silence, hoping he wasn't one of my neighbors. "I heard you sucking on something good. You must be heaven sent." I then heard muffled groans, and at first I didn't understand and turned off the phone in fear. I turned it back on but still heard him. He was telling me to gag for him. I knew exactly what was going on now. I was afraid and equally afraid that my mom would be angry at me for not having called her. I ran into the master bedroom where I unplugged the phone line and tried to reset the phone in base. I turned the phone back on, but I could still hear him groaning loudly. I screamed into the phone and heard him shriek equally in dismay. I slammed the phone back on the cradle and searched my house for a hardline phone I knew we had in the closet. I plugged it in and promptly called my mom. I told her I was sorry for not calling earlier, but I never told her about the phone guy. I asked to have a landline installed in a different part of the house. I didn't like using that particular cordless phone after that. I always kept an eye out on my neighbors and tried to match that mousy voice to a face. I've never found him and I'd like to keep it that way. Number 1. So I met a guy online recently that seemed sweet and kind. I decided to set up a date on Friday and everything was going well. That is, until yesterday. I got a message telling me that he wants to hang out tomorrow morning and I agree, thinking that we would just go out for Starbucks and that he'd come around the time that we agreed, so I go to sleep with a smile on my face. Instead, I wake up to a phone call around 8 a.m. Surprised, I answer it and it's my date. He says, "Hey, are you up yet?" I tell him I just woke up. He then says, "I don't care how you look. Also, your mom freaked me out." "My mom?" I asked. "Yeah, she saw me parked across the street from your house. She waved and I waved back. She was kinda creepy." I asked, "What time did you come over here?" He then tells me 5:30 a.m. My heart sank. I had no idea that someone I was casually meeting for coffee would show up super early to my house and wait for me to wake up. After the phone call, I checked my messages. I see messages from 5 in the morning, a picture of my house with the message, "Do you live here?" The next message says, "Someone spotted me so I moved," along with a picture of the neighbor's house who's nearby. Obviously, I was freaked out and knew that my mother and neighbors were probably equally freaked out. I started panicking and texting my friends on the phone, desperate to see if anyone was awake and could help at all. I got one reply on a group chat, but out of fear of judgment, I lied to her and told her the situation was handled. I then convinced myself to go out and confront this guy. He shouts, "Hi princess, how are you?" I noticed him in my neighbor's yard, probably trying to look for me in their windows. Shaking, I tried to fake a smile and let him hug me. He then goes in for a kiss, wet, messy, and with tongue. I felt frozen on what to do. I tried to tell him that coming at 5 a.m. to wait for me isn't a cool thing to do, but he gives this excuse that he wanted to beat traffic, not drive sleepy as he works nights. I try to see things from his perspective and shake it off. I go off into his car and he and I try to have something close to a regular date, which usually doesn't include groping, licking my neck multiple times, and talking about marriage right away so that I could have his baby. I managed to convince him to drop me off away from home and let me walk back to my house. That is, until I realized he was following me in his car the whole time, and when I asked about it, he asked if I wanted him to walk me back to my house. Even more scared, I told him no and managed to escape. By the time I arrive home, I'm in tears. I tell him that I don't think we're compatible and to never come near me or my family again. In response, he tells me that I'm the one that's horrible. From that, I think I'm gonna take a break from online dating. I just hope this guy never comes back. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos.